Today, I want to go over 3 different cameras which I think are perfect for the beginner content creator. Whether you're looking to start a YouTube channel or create reels on Instagram and TikTok, all 3 of these cameras are going to be perfect for you. Now, I have test driven all 3 of these cameras over the past 2 years, and I really like the way they're performing, and I really like the quality that I'm getting out of all 3 of these cameras. Now, I want to break this down for you into 3 different sections. So I wanted to break this down by different price points. So that first section is going to be a price point around $350. Then I'm going to step it up into that $800 to $1,000 range. And finally, we're going to add in a mirrorless camera, which is starting out at $1,400. But I think it really does offer everything you need, and you're going to continue to grow to use that camera over the next several years. Now, I have been using these cameras on and off for the last 2 years, and I really have come to grow and really appreciate what all these cameras have to offer. And I think there is something out there for everyone. So I did want to do this episode as a little bit of talking to the camera. I am going to feature some B-roll that I did shoot with each one of these cameras as I'm going over them. But mainly I'm going to go through over all the aspects which I love about each one of these cameras. But remember, at the end of the day, the best camera is the one that you have with you. So if you are just using your iPhone right now, don't be discouraged because the iPhone has an amazing camera on it. I personally like to upgrade from the iPhone, mostly because my iPhone is full of storage all the time, so I don't really have enough storage to record videos on it, and I like the idea of having a dedicated camera to creating content with, right? So I know all my content is living on that camera, and I do think you do get a huge bump in the quality that you are getting. Okay, so if that sounds good to you, let's get into the first camera. Okay, so the first camera that I want to talk about is the DJI Action 5 Pro. This camera comes in at $350. However, sometimes it does go on sale for $300. So keep an eye on that and you might be able to get yourself a good deal. I love using this camera. This camera is so small and compact, and it's very easy to carry, and it's very easy to start vlogging with because it's so small. Also, it captures some amazing slow motion footage, which I am a big fan of. I mean, I've even shot this at 120 frames per second. And in order to be able to slow down the footage that much on this little camera truly is impressive. DJI knocked it out of the park with this little camera, in my opinion. Now, another thing that I do really love about using the DJI Action 5 Pro is you can choose a couple different lenses within the camera. And I think this is going to give you great options, especially if you're just a beginner content creator and you want to capture a bunch of different content and you may want to use different lenses. This is going to get you started. So I really like to use the standard mode. This is going to give you the most normal looking footage, and it's going to give you something equivalent to 15 millimeters, which is around that iPhone look, right? So if you're walking and talking like this, it is going to look pretty standardized, and no one is going to know that you are shooting with an action camera. However, then you can bump it up to a wide and ultra wide. So wide is around 12 millimeter, and I really like using this, especially if I have my camera out on a selfie stick and now I'm walking around and I could really start to see my surroundings, and it's just a cool overall perspective that you are capturing. But you can also bump this up to ultra wide, and ultra wide is extremely wide. This is your typical GoPro action camera looking footage, but you can get some very unique shots using this mode. So go ahead and experiment if you do pick up the DJI Action 5 Pro. It also has an incredible stabilization to it. I recently tested this stabilization in Raleigh, so I'll show you some examples there. And you can see my hand is shaking as I'm walking with the camera, but it is still very stabilized and it does almost mimic a gimbal shot. This camera is also waterproof, right? So if you are looking to start creating vlogging content, you can easily bring this camera with you, and no matter what the weather is, you don't have to worry about this camera getting wet or damaged. And I think that is a huge benefit because I use this camera a lot when traveling, so I never know what to expect with the weather when I am getting to a location, whether it's going to be raining or if it's going to be super sunny. I have taken this camera on a number of trips with me, and it has never failed me, and I am always surprised with the footage that's coming off of this little sensor that they have inside. And as I mentioned earlier, it does shoot a ton of different frame rates. So you could shoot anything from 24 to 30 frames. I like to use 24 frames per second when I'm filming my YouTube videos, but I like to use 30 frames per second for Instagram because that is the native frame rate. But like I said, you can also bump this all the way up to 120 frames per second. And I think the footage that's coming off of this camera at 120 is exceptional for the size of the sensor on this camera. They really packed a lot into this camera, and I think it is a great beginner camera if you're looking to upgrade from your iPhone and you're just looking for a camera that you can carry with you easily every day and capture content on the go. You can also get some very cool accessories for the DJI Action 5 Pro. I currently have mine in this small rig here, and you can see it's an all metal rig, and I think this just adds a lot of contrast, but also adds a little bit more protection to the camera. And then I do also recommend picking up maybe a mini tripod that you can start using it with, because it's a lot easier to hold it out and walk around with the camera when it is on a mini tripod. But overall, it's a great beginner camera, and if you are just upgrading from the iPhone, I think the DJI Action 5 Pro is a great way to go. I would choose this over the GoPro 13. I think DJI is being more innovative with their cameras than GoPro is right now, but that could change come the future. But currently sitting in summer 2025, I think the DJI Action 5 Pro is the best action camera on the market, and you are going to be extremely happy with the footage you are able to capture with this little camera. So that kind of brings me into the second category, and the camera I wanted to talk about now is the DJI Osmo Pocket 3. I've had my Osmo Pocket 3 for almost 2 years now, and it has gone on countless trips with me. I've created numerous videos on it for my YouTube channel. This camera is really a game changer when it comes to creating content on the go. I love this camera and I love the quality that you're getting off of it. Having that built-in gimbal really does make a huge difference when you're out there in the field. You don't have to worry about capturing shaky footage anymore. And I just think it looks so cinematic and smooth. All the footage coming off of this camera, especially if you are shooting at nighttime, right? The problem that you might run into with an action camera at nighttime is the stabilization isn't going to be that great. But because this camera does have its built-in gimbal, you are able to overcome that because you're not relying on digital stabilization. You are relying on the mechanical gimbal that's built into the Osmo Pocket 3. And also the Osmo Pocket 3 has that little bit bigger of a sensor. It does have a 1-inch sensor on it. And because it does have that 1-inch sensor, you do get a little bit more separation between you and the background, which I personally like the look of. One downside to the Osmo Pocket 3 though is it's not as wide of a camera. That is one thing I think really shines with the DJI Action 5 is how wide it is. But again, not a deal breaker. If you are looking at the DJI Osmo Pocket 3, I can highly recommend it. Now I know they are kind of hard to come by currently in the United States, so you do have to overcome that, and the prices did recently go up. I think currently for just the camera, you are looking at $800 in the US right now. And if you're looking at the Creator Combo Kit, it is close to $1,000, which is a huge jump in price, but I do think the value is still there at $1,000. I mean, you're getting an incredible camera on a gimbal. And I do recommend the Creator Combo Kit because you also get an additional battery, a mini tripod, and you also get the DJI Mic 2, which syncs automatically with the Osmo Pocket 3. So you are going to be able to upgrade the quality as well as the visuals you are trying to capture on the Osmo Pocket 3. And like I said, I have taken this camera everywhere. It's gone with me on a couple trips to Europe. I took this camera with me to Spain last year and was able to capture some amazing content there. And I love how easy it is to travel with, right? I mean, I just threw this thing in my pocket. If I saw something happening, I took it out and I started capturing content right away. I mean, that's amazing. It's that easy to get going with the Osmo Pocket 3. There's a reason that everybody on YouTube probably uses the Osmo Pocket 3, because the quality is so great and you do have that built-in gimbal, like I said. So the footage is super smooth, so you don't have to worry about your audience looking at shaky footage. And I think this camera is great for a bunch of different scenarios, right? Like I've used this camera for walking and talking, whether I'm just holding it out in front of me and I'm talking to the camera walking around the city. But I've also used this camera for cinematic B-roll. So I like to explore new cities. I get to travel a lot, so I always bring my Osmo Pocket 3 with me. And I am out there capturing a ton of beautiful content with my Osmo Pocket 3, which I am using on my YouTube channel, my Instagram, and my TikTok. So I really don't think you can go wrong with the Osmo Pocket 3. It is in that medium price range, so keep that in mind. But if you are really serious about content creation, I think this is a camera that you should really consider looking into. Now, the next category I want to talk about is mirrorless cameras. Now, this is going to be the highest end camera that you can get for content creation, and a lot of content creators are using it. This is a camera that you may upgrade to from the DJI Osmo Pocket 3 or the Action 5 Pro after creating content for a little bit. I don't recommend upgrading to a mirrorless camera right away. I really do think you should grow into a mirrorless camera because there's a lot you need to learn about videography and cinematography before you take that big jump into the mirrorless realm. Also, this is something to consider if you are looking to create content that is both on the photo and the video side. I think having a mirrorless camera like this really does offer you that hybrid lifestyle when creating content. Okay, so the third camera that I would recommend if you do want to go into the mirrorless realm, I would recommend the Canon R8. So this camera I've had for about a year now, and I've been really impressed with this camera. It is probably the smallest full frame camera that Canon does make, and the quality is just exceptional. If you look on my YouTube channel, most of my talking head videos like this are shot with the Canon R8. However, this one I am using my Canon C70, which is a big cinema rig, but I needed to use it because I wanted to showcase my Canon R8. But normally I just like filming with this camera, and honestly the quality is right up there with the Canon C70. This camera does share the same sensor as its older brother, the Canon R6 Mark II, and the quality is just superb. I mean, when I first opened this camera and started using it, I couldn't believe the quality that I was getting because it's so small, it's so easy to carry, and it really does just work great for my workflow, whether I'm filming a long form video for YouTube or if I want to just do a talking head video for Instagram. I constantly am going for my Canon R8. And because it does have that full frame sensor, you are getting a lot more depth in your shot, right? So when I'm using this camera, the background is blown out a little bit more than on the DJI Action 5 Pro and the Osmo Pocket 3. It is also very small, so it is very easy to carry with me, and I have traveled a lot with this camera. I've taken it to numerous coffee shops and taken many photos of coffee with it. And one thing I will say though is if you are using this camera as your main vlogging camera, just be aware that it doesn't have any digital stabilization on it, so you are going to need a gimbal. I currently use the DJI Ronin gimbal and it works great with the Canon R8, but this is one reason why I don't normally bring this camera out into the city and take a ton of footage, because I don't want to carry a big rig with me. I think this camera is more designed for doing a talking headshot similar to how we're doing this right now. And if I do want to go capture more cinematic shots in the city, I'm probably going to bring my Osmo Pocket 3, but it really depends on the type of content that you are trying to create. If you are mostly going to do a talking head, I think that is perfect. I think a Canon R8 or a mirrorless camera is going to be perfect for you because you are going to get the highest quality video that you can get, and you are going to be able to get it in such a small package like this camera. I remember when I first started out shooting video, I was on a Canon 5D Mark II, which is a massive camera. It is full frame still, but the lenses were big and it was such a hassle to carry around, so I didn't want to carry that with me a lot of places in order to take good photos. But this camera is so small and so light, and it still fits in a side bag, and I love that Canon released a bunch of small lenses with it. I currently have the Canon 28mm on here, which I think is a perfect travel lens in order to capture photos and video. It really does a great job. Now, one thing is the size was a little too small for my hand, so you do see I did get a small rig cage just to put on the bottom so my bottom finger can sit there and relax and feel comfortable when I'm out there taking photos and video with the Canon R8. If you do go into the mirrorless realm, right, you are going to spend the most amount of money, because I think the Canon R8 right now is around $1,400. Then you're going to spend another $200 to $300 on a beginner starter lens, and that's a whole nother rabbit hole that you can go down. And also when looking at mirrorless systems, it's important to do your research and your due diligence, because once you are in a system, it's a lot harder to switch systems. For instance, I started out with Sony with the OG Sony a7S, which I absolutely love. But I did recently switch over to Canon because I do like the color science coming off the Canon cameras a little bit more, and I really like the way Canon is heading. But again, it is a little bit of a hassle to switch systems, so please do your research beforehand. I personally prefer the Canon system over the Sony system, but there are a ton of other YouTubers out there who like the Sony system over the Canon system. If you get an opportunity to try them, go out and try both so you can see what camera system really fits you and your lifestyle. Now, after you do choose what camera you want to go with, again, I do think you can start off with the DJI Action 5 Pro, and you're going to be able to capture all the content you want, and you're going to be very happy with the results. And then maybe later on you want to upgrade to the Osmo Pocket 3 or a mirrorless camera. So if you are out there deciding still, make sure you are creating content with the camera that you have leading up to the new camera that you might purchase. Now, I do want to talk about a couple different accessories which I would recommend picking up with your new camera if you are getting into content creation. So the first thing would be a mic, right? So I have the DJI Mic 2. I think this is a great starter mic, and it does connect easily with the Osmo Pocket 3 and the DJI Action 5 Pro. I also have the OG mics, right? So I do have the first version of the DJI Mic 1s, and these are also great mics. The big difference between these and the DJI Mic 2 is this has internal 32-bit recording. So 32-bit recording is like taking a raw photo. I can bring this into my editor and post, and I can mess with the audio a lot more, and I can save a lot of clipped audio if I need to, because it is recording 32-bit. So I do think that is a huge upgrade. Now, the next thing I would recommend picking up for any of these cameras is a tripod, because at some point in your content creation journey, you are going to want to do a talking head video similar to this. So I currently have my camera on an Enduro tripod, which I've had for many years, and it's gone with me into numerous countries, and it's still holding up great. But I do recommend picking up a mini tripod as well. This is great while you're traveling because you kind of just throw this in your backpack and you can connect any one of these cameras to it, and now you can begin talking to your camera wherever you are. And I really do think it's worth having. This one is by Oben, and I think Oben makes some great tripods. It's all metal, and I just throw it in my backpack because you never know you're going to need a tripod. And the last accessory that I do recommend picking up would be ND filters. An ND filter is going to allow you to bring the shutter speed down when you're filming during the day and capture a more cinematic look. They're just like sunglasses for your camera, so the light coming in isn't as harsh, and you can lower that shutter speed. I highly recommend picking up some ND filters if you are going to start shooting footage outside during the day. And again, those are some accessories that I recommend picking up if you do start your content creation journey. And I think they are going to help you create even better content with the 3 cameras that I did mention earlier in this video. Awesome. So those are 3 cameras I recommend for the beginner content creator. I think all these cameras do a great job. I've been using them for the past year and have been really happy with the results that I have been getting. If you have any questions about any of these cameras, please ask them in the comment section below. I also have numerous videos on all 3 of these cameras on my channel to check out. So if you want to go in a little bit more depth into each one of these cameras, you can do so. Please like and subscribe to my channel if you do like this content. It really does help me out in the algorithm, and it helps me build my channel. I am looking to hit 3,000 subscribers by the end of the summer, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And if you aren't already, please follow me on social media. I do try to post daily on Instagram and TikTok. You can see my channels right here. And I did recently start a Substack channel where I am sharing a lot of this content in written form. So I will leave my Substack linked in the description below as well. If you made it this far, I really do appreciate you watching my video all the way to the end, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.